Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be my overview of my entire experience at Creation's Salute to Battlestar Galactica, which happened this weekend. If you're checking in on my channel, I've done a couple of short updates, but this one was going to be a totality of the 3 days that the event went on. Preface, I only stayed for two. There's a reason for that. I'll go into it in a minute. So first of all, the venue. The venue was awesome. It was at the Whippany Hotel in New Jersey, the Whippany Marriott Hotel in New Jersey. Got to get that right. Um, awesome venue. Much more intimate than I'm used to. The last real big thing that I went to was Comic Con, which was held in New York. And if you know anything about Comic Cons, they're a huge circus, thousands of people, stuff happening everywhere. It's just a complete cluster sometimes. Not to say that my enjoyment of at Comic Con was ruined by that. Comic Con was awesome. Um, I actually was one of the lucky people that got to see the season 3 premiere episode of The Expanse when they went over to Amazon at that event. Something that was very unique. I have posters from it. Unfortunately, I did not get them signed, which is a stupid thing. Um, but back on topic. The venue was awesome. Close to tons of food options. There was on-site food that you could get. Um, the rooms were great. The room service was great. The staff was awesome. Really great experience in terms of lodging. We got special rates for being for going to the event at the hotel at the hotel, which was again awesome. It was $200 a night a room, which I mean, you could have gotten cheaper options closer by, but I don't drive, so I wanted to stay at the venue. Um, so day one was absolutely awesome. A bit confusing and a bit jarring. Not used to the way Creation does their things, and there was a lot of confusion between the information that they provided on their website and how things were being run at the venue. Um, First things first, autographs, picture options, and um, vendors. The autograph and photo um, setup was a little confusing. You had the talent that was there had the option of using Creation's own system of allowing you to pre-register for autographs and photo ops, paying for them in advance, and then presenting either the printed out ticket or the ticket on mobile to their staff, and you would then, you know, be in a line for autographs. What was confusing was is that they made it sound like by paying advance that you were put in a separate queue that was either going to be called directly from the panel auditorium or in between panels while you're at intermission, that your seating, your pre-advanced seating rows were going to be announced or indicated on their video displays, and you would go out and queue up to get your autograph or photo ops. Well, that's not the way they were doing it at this event. This was basically a la carte. You had to go out to their designated tables. Every member of the talent had individual tables with a banner, and some of them had their schedule posted out all day, some of them didn't. It was a bit confusing and a bit frustrating because I had to actually decide, well, what panels do I consider more important to sit through and others to leave to go out and try to get talent. And this was something, oddly enough, that one of the talent, Mark Shepard, kind of brought up because he was frustrated because Katie Sackhoff was only there for one day. And so during that first day, everybody was on her line. Everybody was in there getting her because she was only going to be there one day. And even I felt bad because there was the rest of the talent. There were about four of them on the first day in the morning between 10 a.m. and 2 that basically just, in between panels, if they were out there trying to get autographs and photo ops, basically were out there alone with nobody at their tables. It wasn't the best system. Um, And it was confusing because there were not set schedules for the talent. They were basically told, just, if you're not on a panel, you should be out there trying to get photo and autograph pe- people to, sign up for them. And it's kind of bad for the talent too, because I mean, this is one of the ways they make a decent amount of money at these things, because creation takes their own cut of everything. And because of that, some of the talent were not using creation system at all. They were accepting direct cash, um, which I hate carrying cash anywhere anymore. So some of the talent I did not get signatures from, which I wasn't happy about, and I'll go over in a minute why. Um, Scheduling of talent. I understand things come up all the time. We all know how it is. They're actors. They have jobs. They have personal lives. Unfortunately, it was really frustrating, especially that Mary McDonald canceled literally the week of. Somebody that I was really hoping to get a signature for what I will show you guys in a minute, as it was frustrating. Um, the highlight of the panels the first day was definitely Katie Sackhoff. I was shocked as to how diminutive a person she is. I'm 5'6". I'm not, super muscular and super fat. She was shorter than me and skinnier than me somehow, or at least as tall as me. It was it seems like a stupid thing to bring up, but it was interesting actually meeting so many of the talent for this show. Battlestar Galactica has been something that has been a cornerstone of my love for sci-fi for almost 2 decades now. And actually, connecting with these people on their podcasts and their YouTube channels and their social media is always fun. But actually talking to them one on one when you're getting your autograph or your photo is a much more unique experience. And for anybody out there that has, an actor or a wrestler or, you know, any other type of person that they follow, they like a lot, their children like a lot, do yourself a favor and go to something like this. It's an experience, especially for your children. They're going to remember forever. As an adult, I mean, meeting the cast of The Expanse at Comic Con was something that just blew my mind, because you don't there is a disconnect between people when you just view them as celebrities or actors on television shows, and then you meet them in person, and it's the connection is much more different. Um, what was my favorite thing of the first day? I will say I think my favorite thing of the first day was the panel with Katie Sackhoff and surprisingly Aaron Douglas. I was mad because I managed to go out to get my Katie Sackhoff um, autograph. That ran long. She was only out there for an hour before her panel, but because I was waiting for that, I missed the beginning of Aaron Douglas's panel. Aaron Douglas is hilarious, has an insane amount of energy for a man his age, is super personable, has no problem discussing every part of his career, everything that went on Battlestar Galactica. He's not politically correct. He will curse, he will laugh, he will make jokes. Awesome guy. Absolutely awesome guy. I regret I didn't get to ask him any questions because, again, I was late to his panel. I missed about the first 15 minutes of his 20-minute panel. I was not thrilled about that. I will say it was noticeable that some of the talent were not as comfortable talking in public as other ones, and they did better when they were on a group panel than they were solo. Most notably, Grace Park. Um, she seemed a little nervous, or a little I wouldn't say nervous. She didn't seem as comfortable. Maybe because it was a smaller audience. I forgot to mention the ballroom there seats about 200 people, and it was at 65% capacity. Probably it was more noticeable that people bought single day passes to the event than going the full 3 days. So the first day wasn't as full. Second day was packed, And again, I did not stay for the third day. I'd imagine that the third day was very empty because um, I'll go into that in a minute. So that was really the highlight of day two. Um, the other cool one was Tom Pinnickett. He plays Halo on the show, a much more mellow, low key kind of guy that had no problem discussing other parts of his career. I loved that he brought up his time on Altered Carbon, which was really awesome because that's another show that, I mean, if you've skipped it, it's only 2 seasons. Please go watch it. Um, and I was happy because I got to ask him in the end, would he, in his character, have actually killed Boomer at the end? And he was like, no, no, I don't think that is the moral compass of how Halo as a character functioned. And it was great, and it was really great. His panel was short. Trying to think, what was the other weird things that I did on day one? Yeah, the confusion of day one and trying to get into the habit of managing panels between autographs and photo ops kind of made the first day a little jarring for me and a little frustrating. Um, I was much more prepared for day two. Day two started at the same time, but the panels started slightly later. So I was fortunate enough to get in there at 9:30, and there was already talent there taking autographs, which was awesome. So I nailed Jamie Bamber, Jamie Callis, Mark Shepard, Rekha Sharma, Trisha Helfer, all in the same day, which was great. And Mark Shepard was great because there weren't as many people at his table. He would take 15-20 minutes to talk to you, and he was great, absolutely great. And given all the health problems that he's had in the past, again, tons of energy, tons of interest, had no problem engaging you on all sorts of things. Excellent. Jamie Bamber looked like he didn't age in the last 20 years. I swear to God, he got younger. And oddly enough, turns out he's actually Irish, not English. Imagine that. He's American Irish. He's not English, which was weird. And it's always jarring when you see somebody who doesn't speak with an English in the media that you consume, an accent in the media that you consume, and then you meet them in person and they have a foreign accent. It's jarring, but it's actually endearing because he's an awesome dude to talk to. Jamie Callis, holy hell! I mean, never mind that this guy has an insanely long acting resume. He's been on everything. He's been everywhere. Um, but he's such a personable person. So personable. Um, Rekha Sharma, again, one of the talents there that a lot of people probably don't follow much of what she does, but she's been in a lot of stuff. Like a lot of stuff, single episode stuff. She's always been fairly like a walk on role, except for a couple shows. And I was very happy because um, on the second day, I got to ask her about her time on the 100 because I loved her role on the 100. Um, she played a very kind of dark, dynamic role on Galactica, and she played a very dark, dynamic role on the 100, which was great because asking her that question and asking her about that time, her role was basically like a Nazi scientist on the show, if you want to get a parallel to exactly how her character was. And she was a very dark character, and it was really awesome understanding, her time on the show. Um, Trisha Helfer, unfortunately, her line was long. Trisha plays six, but she was actually blown away by what I had her sign, which I'll show you everybody in a couple minutes. This was the day of some of the best panels ever. It was the rest of the talent that had not been on stage. Trisha was up there with the girls. Great stories, lots of laughs. I loved asking Rekha about the 100. I asked Grace about. Did I ask Grace any questions? No, I didn't get to ask Grace or Trisha because the line for that panel was long. They had Jamie Callis and Jamie Bamber on, and I loved hearing about Jamie Callis's time on Picard season 2 because, as anybody knows, that season was very derisive. Some of the things I didn't realize was that season was filmed during COVID. and there were a lot of set problems. It was hard to interact as talent. They kept people very isolated. Of course, I mean Patrick Stewart is how old? You don't want that man getting COVID, but he had a few anecdotes about meeting a lot of the cast. He had actually worked with Patrick Stewart before, which I didn't realize, and he had some great anecdotes about the type of person Patrick Stewart is. He's very different from the stalwart captain that he is on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Um, awesome stories. Who else did we have that day? There was some other panels that weren't as interesting, like philosophy of Star Trek as it ties to current world events to a degree. Some of that wasn't as interesting. If you're somebody who delves into philosophy and the science and the tech and everything of Galactica, it was actually very engaging to a degree. Then we had what else did I do that day? That was my first day going around the vendors. Again, unfortunately, the vendors don't use like any form of like direct interaction or integration with creation. So some of them had you pay cash, some of you had to pay credit, some of them charged you a fee for using credit. But the booths were great. They were stocked full of merchandise. Um, I kind of wished I could have gotten most of the talent had um, their I want to say mug shots. They're actor headshots as photos, but they were branded with Battlestar Galactica in the lower right hand corner. Um, I could not find those at the vendor tables, but they were at the talent tables. Would have been nice to have those even without autographs. I would have paid for them. I think I can find them online though. I'm not 100% sure on that. But that was just a little bug. There were other things there. There were things that you have problems getting now, like the Eagle Moss, Battlestar Galactica ships, the scale ships, which I have pretty much all of them. They were there, which surprised me, and they were at reasonable prices because if you go hunting for them online, they're very expensive now because that company went out of business and then relaunched, and the whole fiasco with that. The real highlight of this day was the 8 o'clock full cast panel. There was a break for 2 hours between. I went and did dinner. Dinner was great. But this was the key panel. And I will say this. Everybody talks about how, some casts get along, some casts don't get along. Most notably, Star Trek Enterprise, that cast kind of hated each other. And um, this cast not only got along on set, not only got along as people, but they got along with each other and stayed connected with each other for years and years and years once the show was over. And to see the interpersonal chemistry between these people, knowing that, I mean, they were there for the birth of their children and the loss of their parents, and just for people who don't really humanize actors that well, this is something that you should be at because seeing these people interact, the real heartbreaking one was Edward James Olmos. For people who may not know, Edward James Olmos had throat cancer, and for a while, it wasn't that it was touch and go or it was super severe, but he was away from these people for a while. They really couldn't come see him. A lot of them, like Jamie Bamber, lives overseas now. A lot of them are acting, and they, for a while he didn't see them. And this was the first time in a while that this whole cast was able to get together. It's like a family reunion, and seeing his love for the entire cast, it gets me a little watery because I hate seeing old people cry. And he began crying because he brought up, it's rare for him to be with a cast that he stays in contact with this long. And this, he said it. He said, "This is the cast that I consider my family. Over all of the people I've ever worked with, all the talent I've ever worked with, these are the people that I consider my family." And it really set a kind of a depressing tone because, like I said, I don't like seeing old people cry. But it set the tone. It set the tone of how special this show is, how relevant this show is. For people who are watching this video who go on and on and on about Andor, Battlestar Galactica did it first before anybody else. If you want adult sci-fi that is capable of folding in real world relevancy into a fictional universe, Battlestar Galactica is the show you should watch. If you love Andor that much, if you love The Expanse that much, this is the show you should watch. So now, I'm going to go over exactly why I went. Okay, so for people that don't know, that this was the other thing that they covered at the panel, and it was the impetus for why Edward James almost got upset. Michael Hogan, who plays Colonel Ty, had a stroke during COVID, and his treatment was not that great. And he lost motor function, most of his ability to speak, some of his memory. Wasn't a great time. Wasn't a great time for him or his family. Being that he's an actor, he did not have, the best health care, unfortunately, because of America, even though he's Canadian. But it wasn't a great time. His health was touch and go. His family suffered a lot of financial stress because of it. And of course, he couldn't go out and do the thing he loved the most anymore, acting. So, way back, I think it was 9 months to a year after the show ended, there were two auctions. One was by PropWorks and one was by another company. I don't think it was PropWorks. I don't remember, but I had missed out on a lot of the PropWorks stuff. I do have some of the PropWorks stuff, which I should show in a separate video at some point. But the second auction was specifically from Michael Hogan and his family to generate revenue for his ongoing medical bills and home care. And I bought this. Now, imagine my surprise, because when I got this is the Book of Pythia. There were two props of the Book of Pythia. One was in pristine condition. That was the one that the priest Elisha gave to Laura Roslin, that Elisha was carrying on Kobol when she died. Sorry if these are spoilers. But I wanted the one that was the one that Laura Roslin burned post-nuclear Earth. So I got upset because when I first got it, this was what I got. This was denoted as Elisha's Book of Pythia, and it also had the certification for the Elisha Book of Pythia and not the Laura Roslin one. Well, I found out that that was incorrect. I got that fixed, and this is the one that Laura Roslin burned post nuclear Earth. So my goal was, I want to get the entire cast to sign this, because religion was a core aspect of the show. The Book of Pythia, in the actions and the lore in the show. And I thought, well, this is the core of the show. And the core of the show, I want them to sign it. I want all the actors to sign this. So I did my best. The only person that I did not get was Grace Park and Aaron Douglas. I'm going to try to rectify that at some point in the future. I regret not carrying cash. I didn't want to carry cash this time. Not the hardest thing to get rectified, because they're both younger. They're going to be around for a while. They go to a lot of things. Grace goes to a lot of stuff because she's in other properties, and Aaron is everywhere, so not hard. But I did get a lot of the cast. And Edward James Olmos was amazing, because, a lot of actors, they'll just sign their name and that's it. He gave me a nice little, and it probably doesn't capture for the camera, but he gave me a nice little paragraph and he dated it, which was awesome. And he was awesome to talk to as well. Um, because of the throat cancer, as if his voice was not raspy enough as it is. Um, it's a little harder to understand him, but and especially in a loud, crowded room that was small. But it was awesome to talk to him. Um, all of the actors were amazed that I had this, and I told them where I got it from and what it was for. And for anybody who is curious, you can go out and donate directly to Michael Hogan's family. Trying to remember if I can find the link, I'll put it in this video. But all you have to do is look it up on Google, and you'll find it right away. Even if it's just $1. Um, I know people are charity fatigued all the time. It's hard to decide where you want to throw your money, but even if it's just $1, it matters. Um, Anybody who's had to deal with an elder parent that needs constant care and supervision, it's expensive. Healthcare doesn't cover all of it. And just the lodging and everything else that you have to pay for, travel, food, it adds up. It always adds up. But yeah, so I did not stay for the. Oh, well, to preface this too, the group panel also had the director David Icke there, and it was very interesting. Everybody talks about how this is a Ronald D. Moore property, but David Icke was the impetus for getting this show started and getting the show picked up after the miniseries, and constantly going back to Sci-Fi to get them renewed. For people who may not be fully aware of the inner workings and the dynamics of what went on with the show, Sci-Fi, the parent company which funded and broadcast and licensed Battlestar Galactica, went through a number of internal turmoils, a merger, and leadership changes. Anybody who is a fan of Farscape knows that the leadership changes at Sci-Fi were instrumental in that show ending and getting budget cuts, which Galactica also suffered. But it was awesome listening to him explain a lot of the inner workings. The cast, love him. It was very obvious. He has a huge connection with the industry. He's been connected to so many things that I love. And it was really interesting talking to him. But I was not mad, but disappointed because this panel was only half hour, 40 minutes. And it went so long that they didn't really get to much audience questions. I wanted to ask him a couple things, but I decided that I wasn't going to stay the third day just for him. Maybe a stupid thing to do. Maybe I should have stayed for all 3 days. I paid for all 3 days, but my reservation for the hotel ended at 11 o'clock, and I didn't want to just, sit around with luggage for 2 hours waiting to talk to one panel. The other panels were redundant. It was some of the same actors again. Maybe it was stupid. I don't know. But it was great. It was still great. And even if maybe in the future, I'll just buy day passes based on the scheduling. That was the other thing, too. They kind of goat you into buying the 3-day pass because they don't post the schedule until like 2 days before the event. That was a little pet peeve of mine. If you're somebody who's financially conscious, you don't want to be, I spent a lot of money, I won't lie, but I don't do these things very often, so it was worth it. Trying to think, what else was I thinking of? Oh, the audience that was there was surprisingly older, in my age demographic, 35 to 50-ish. Very female centric, which I was surprised at too. It was funny because I had met a married couple, and their anniversary gift to each other was going to this, and I was like, no, that's a unusual thing. So they went into it. The husband was a huge fan of the show, and the wife was a huge fan of The Mandalorian. So she wanted the ability to, get a photo op with Katie Sackhoff, and he wanted to show up at all the panels and interact with all of the cast for the show. So that was a cute thing. not a thing I think people would get for an anniversary gift. But yeah, everybody that was there was awesome. Um, I did not run into a single douchebag. I mean, one of the things that I always don't like at cons is you'll get some, tools there. But this being a smaller, more intimate event was awesome, and the people were awesome. Kind of disappointing to not see younger people there, and that may have been tied to the financial cost and the venue and where it was. I could be wrong, but um, one of the things that keeps an IP alive is bringing in younger people. And of course, any of the YouTube reactors out there that react to the show are helping with that a lot. Um, I personally have introduced younger people that I work with to the show that had never heard of it. Um, but it's kind of scary to see that something this awesome and this special might be part of a dying out audience. That was something that I would kind of I found a little jarring and disappointing. But overall, this was an amazing experience, and I don't know. I mean, if Creation does something with the Expanse here in New Jersey, you can guarantee that I'm going to that. Um, I know they do Vampire Diaries, they do Star Trek. They're doing something for the 60th anniversary of Star Trek, but I think it's just Kate Mulgrew and William Shatner. Um, Granted, there aren't many of the cast left, um, but yeah, they do all sorts of things. But yeah, so I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. Awesome experience. I highly recommend if you can go to something like this, even if it's not creation events, if it's Dragon Con, if it's Comic Con. Really, really, I recommend going to this, even if it's just once. Enjoy the experience, enjoy the interactions with the actors and the cast, and the fandoms. The fandoms are always, really awesome. I love the Battlestar Galactica fandom. Another really awesome fandom is the Expanse fandom. It's a little younger, still some of the best people you'll ever interact with. And again, thanks for watching, liking. I have a donation page up on my channel. If you like my content and you want to just throw a few shekels at me, please don't hesitate. Thanks again.